Well, hey, good evening, gardening friends. We are back at it down in the grow room. Spent some time getting the cold weather seedlings outside. They are in my little travel trailer. It's supposed to get colder later this week, so I'll probably be bringing them in and out of the garage depending on what the weather does. But for now, things are far enough along that they can be outside. So got those outside to clear out space for my warm weather stuff. I've got some peppers that have sprouted, and then this week I plan on starting my tomato seeds and getting those going because we're about a month, 5 weeks out from Memorial Day weekend, and which is about the time frame I need to get the tomatoes going. Peppers take a little bit longer, so they've been in a tray at least probably a week and a half, 2 weeks now, and they're looking pretty good. So I wanted to take you along as we're going to be kind of working on transplanting them. There's tons of different ways of starting seeds, growing plants, for the garden. Um, and I change it up periodically, but for now, kind of what I've settled on, I'll show you. So what I've settled on is I'll start on the seed in a little 10 by 20 tray like this, where I'll get my soilless grow mix, just create little furrows and drop seeds in, dampen it all real good. Again, using the shelf liner works out real well to water a tray in really quickly without disturbing the seeds. And that's important, especially after they've been in there for a little while or whatnot. If you don't have it covered using this, because if you, let's say you've got seeds that are going in the midst of trying to sprout, and you water them in too hard, it can turn the seed and actually kill the seed. Where the sprout is now oriented the wrong way or whatever, the root tip. So I water in the tray, get things going with, and when I put a lid on it, we set the grow mat to about 80, I think 82, and it took about a week or so for the peppers to sprout. But now they're sprouted, things are going pretty well. They probably got a good little root stock on them. So tonight we're going to dig them out using my little homemade tool here, and we're going to pot up some peppers. So what I bought a bunch of these from Harbor Freight's anti-fatigue mats or blocks. I had an extra one here, which works out as a good little working surface for prying these out and spreading them out and everything. I've got my 3x5 pots. I think that's the dimension of 3x3 up top. Maybe that's 4x4 by I think that's 5. That might be 7 inches. I'd have to get a tape measure. But anyway, I got a bunch of these a while back from Growers Solution. I've tried. They're pretty sturdy. I think this is the third season that I've had these, and I went with a deeper pot because depending on how long the seeds, your sprouts are going to be in a grow room or in a greenhouse or just kind of awaiting, transplanting in the garden. You want to give them plenty of space to develop their root stock, and so there's not like a limiting factor on their growth where they become root bound or anything like that. And so I found these pots to be really good because, you know, they can send roots down. You get a pretty good root ball on this by the time I transplant them in the garden, which is a good thing because once they're in the garden, the conditions are pretty harsh for the most part. At least in the setting that I'm growing in, there's not like a protective tree line or anything like that. So getting a ton of sun all day long. There's pretty stiff winds that come through. It can be um, a fairly tough transition for a seedling, and so getting them a good start where they've got a nice root ball on them is going to give them a better chance of survival because they'll be able to take up more nutrients and everything once you get them planted. Just increases their survival rate for the most part. With that being said, you know, I'm using probably more grow mix and stuff than probably what I need to. But, you know, I'm just a little hobby grower, you know, and it's okay if I'm running a little bit of a deficit in terms of expense and getting different things to start seeds because this is just something like I enjoy doing. It's not so much like a business or something where I really care a whole lot about. I mean, I do care to an extent. I don't want to spend like several $100s each each season on stuff, but at the same time, you know, I don't mind spending, you know, 150 bucks to get the grow mix, maybe some you know, amendments, things like that. You know, right now, actually, it's probably less than that. I've probably spent less than $100, or yeah, probably less than $100 this season because I've already got everything. I've just kind of accumulated over time as far as my trays, my pots. So it's basically in grow mix and worm castings and amendments and stuff. But anyway, I just kind of make up my own little grow mix recipe where I've got the Pro Mix that I highlighted, I think, in the last video or two live stream. Mix that with a fair amount of worm castings. I think I put probably about 10 pounds worth in with, you know, probably a cubic, less than 2 cubic feet of grow mix, probably 1.5 cubic foot bag equivalent of grow mix with about 10 pounds of worm castings, a little azomite powder, stuff like that. Mix it all together so that now there is a nutrient source in this mix. Whereas before, my the grow mix I'm starting to seed that I start the seeds out in initially is just grow mix. There's no like nutritional or mineral value to it really. Pretty much sterile. Just something to get them going. So now that we got that going, we're gonna take our dibber here and we're gonna make our holes in our little pots. So we'll see if we can adjust down here and do that. Probably a better angle from here. But I just take this and I go pretty far down, just kind of move it around. The other thing too is I added some water, like watered these pots in so that the grow mix kind of takes, you know, like it retains its form when I am making the impression. And I'm going about 3 inches down. Each of these, there's an inch divider on this, like marks. Kind of going in the middle there. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick out the 9 best seedlings of the peppers that I'm growing here. So I'm thinking it's going to be maybe my hot peppers. Though I've got a couple friends that want jalapenos, so I might try to do a whole tray of jalapenos or as many as I can get. We'll see. I think for now we'll do the Corno di Toro. We got a couple varieties here. We got the reds and we got the yellows. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dig these out. And we'll start on the end. We'll do the yellows first. And they're looking pretty good. These are seeds that I saved from plants that I grew last year. So I'm just going to come along the side here and just kind of scoop these out. Onto our mat. I mean, they're not too far along yet. And you can kind of see they're still babies. Kind of come along and see if we can nudge the grouping of these out. All right. So we've got them nudged out. So now what we're going to do is look at these. And see which ones we want to transplant. And kind of what I'm looking at is, again, I'm looking at rootstock. I'm looking at the seed leaves. They're not the true leaves, they're just the first set of seed leaves that come out initially. And I'm looking at the stems. And looking at those three characteristics, I want to pick out the seedlings that are the healthiest, maybe the furthest along, that are really vigorous, because they're going to be the ones that have the best chance of survival, whereas the ones that are not as good, like for example this one, it's a little bit smaller for sure compared to any of these in terms of the stem and the leaves. This one's further along. The rootstock is probably similar. It's into a clump here, that's why it looks bigger here. But overall, I would probably go with this one. Here's another one. Again, all things considered, I'd pick this one over this one. So this one's pretty good. So we're going to try to pick out our 9 best. Looks decent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Seven. It's got a long root and not a lot of roots on the side. 8 and probably this one here. That's 9. So a few here that didn't make the cut. I mean, they're not bad. You know, I could certainly nurse them along, but here's a good example. Kind of pretty similar. This just only has the one root. It's pretty long, but there's no like side roots, whereas this is more of a clump of roots. All right, so now what we're going to do is put them into our holes there. What I'm going to do is just kind of lower it in and pinch while I'm holding the seed leaf. Pinch in some grow mix around it. That's another one. We'll lower that into the hole. Push grow mix around so there's good contact with the roots. Pack that down pretty good. So we can get a better shot of what we're doing here. So here's one. We're going to drop that into the hole. Kind of push the mix. We're just kind of tucking this little seedling in. We're kind of being careful. I don't want to, if you push too hard, you can damage the stem, or you could tear the rootstock away from the plant. Now it's going to take a couple of days for these seedlings to adjust to their new environment. So after we're done tucking these little plants in, we will give them a little dose of the BioThrive. And you can do any kind of like liquid, like fish emulsion's a good one, but it kind of stinks. What I like about the BioThrive is it's organic or natural, but it doesn't have, and it's got a little bit of the smell that the fish emulsion would have, but not near as strong. But something that's got nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, maybe some trace minerals is what you want. And what that's going to help is it's going to help offset the transplant shock. So those are done. We've got I think they're called Corno de Toro Giallo or something, but they're the yellow green streaked Corno de Toro like horn peppers. They're sweet. We got 9 of them. And I had enough, if I did every seedling that was healthy enough, potentially transplant, I'd have enough for 7 more, but we're not going to do that. So the next thing I need to do is label this. So what I'm going to do is just put a piece of painter's tape along the side of the tray. You can kind of see it right there. And I'm just going to label that with a permanent marker. If I can find it. And I'm just going to write an abbreviation that Corno Y, like yellow. And as long as someone doesn't come and like jack around and move all these around, I'm fine. Like I'll know that these 9 plants are the Corno, and I can label them later with individual label sticks. Main thing tonight is to get these transplanted. So we'll go ahead and give these a little spritz. We get this BioThrive Grow stuff. These are the minerals that are on there. I don't know if you can see that or not. You know, it's derived from alfalfa meal, beet something, magnesium sulfate, molasses, phosphoric acid, plant protein, seaweed. It's got a bunch of different stuff. That's in it. It only takes about a capful or half capful for about 30 ounces. 30-ounce bottle is what it'll make, which is perfect. So just 1 whole spritz of that, and just kind of slowly pulling the trigger so I don't wash away the grow mix around the plant here. And I'm spraying it right at the base of the seedling so that soaks in right where the root zone is at. So those are ready to go. This mix is already moist, so I don't need to water this in really anymore. So we'll go ahead and do one more set here. We've got our Corno de Toro Reds right next to it. Before we do that, we're going to pull our little mat out. We got a trash can here. I'm just going to put, actually what I'll do, we've got an old tray here that fits the width of this. I'm just going to put it up under like this, and I'm just going to scrape this in. And then take these, and then make that, just throw them out. Okay, so now we're ready to begin again on the next set. Just turn this around so it's a little easier to get to. I'm just going to cut along the side and separate this whole bunch here. Lift out this half row. Set that down. And get the others here. And there's a lot of healthy sprouts in this one. So this is a perfect example here. Let's see if we can highlight it even more. So there's your two seedlings. If you had to choose between those two, which one would you take, right? We would take this one. Stems a little straighter. The seed leaves are bigger. That rootstock is noticeably bigger than the other one. And just size-wise, it's just a lot larger, more vigorous. So we'll set this one aside. This one will be reserved for the seed tray, right? We'll kind of go through these. The other thing when you're doing this, it's good if the mix is not like completely saturated, like it's a little damp, but not, so you can, you know, pull things apart rather easily. And it's important to do this while they're still young, before the roots get really entwined with one another. I'm just kind of massaging the dirt clumps here to help break them free. It's a nice one. These are pretty nice. These are ones that I again started from seeds that I saved last year from last season. That's a really nice one. So we've got 8 really nice peppers so far here. That one's pretty decent for being little yet. You know, all these are pretty healthy. You know, and have potential. I mean, even the ones where the rootstock isn't as vigorous, if I put it in its own pot and fertilized it and all that, I mean, it would probably turn out halfway decent, right? So how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need one more from what we picked out here. Decisions. We'll go with this one. The stem is straighter on that one. Alright, so these are the 9 that I'm going with. Again, we're holding it by the seed leaf. I'm not holding it by the stem. I'm not holding it by the rootstock, but by the seed leaf. Because even if I tear that, it can grow back. I mean, actually, the true leaves haven't even, so that's not going to matter as much. But if I damage the stem, I'm done. You know, I've ruined any chance of nutrients kind of come out. There's a chance it might grow a new top, but more than likely it's done. If I tear the rootstock away from the stem, it's done. It's not going, more than likely not going to survive. So, holding it by the seed leaf, kind of tuck it in. Careful to kind of lightly pinch some of this grow mix, you know, and push things down around it. We're tucking our plants in, right? Lower that in. Sometimes you gotta help it just a little bit. It's always kind of a wonder, you know, with these fruiting plants, right? Just how much care and attention you have to give. That's pretty nice. Give to them to get them to grow. Whereas, you know, like weeds, they grow so easily. But one of the things I've been like commercial agriculture, the last 50 years, it's been more or less dependent on chemicals, you know, and managing soil and pests through a chemical solution, rather than paying any attention to the biology in the soil. But really, that's the long game. If you can get the biology right, then that takes care of most of your issues. In fact, soils with, depending on what's growing in the soil and what tends to do well, it can be an issue of what's deficient. So I've been reading up on that a little bit. All right, so everything's tucked in pretty good. We'll go ahead and give it a spritz. Of our BioThrive. So we have a whole tray of peppers there potted up, and these are the Cornell Reds. So again, I'll get my painter's tape for now and just put it across the bottom of the tray, or the side of the tray rather, and we'll write Cornell R. So I know that these 9 plants are Corno di Toro, the red ones. So I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. You know, and I could do, I mean, there's more efficient ways of starting seeds and, transplanting and things like that. But for me, on like this scale, the fact that I'm not doing a ton of plants really, I don't mind taking the extra time to look at things, and digging the seedlings out and, evaluating where they're at, whether it's worth investing additional time, resources to get them to grow. We're going to do the rest of our trays. I've got 1, 2, I've got 3 more trays similar to this that we just potted up, where I'll be making my holes, I'll be digging out the seedlings, evaluating things, picking the 9 that I want to go with. That'll be half the tray, and the other half will be another variety. We'll get them all potted up and then put them on the grow mat. Should have room. This mat will accommodate 4 10-20 trays. So we'll do that, and then they'll probably be in the grow room all this week, and then probably this coming weekend we'll see where they're at. Maybe I'll start putting them out on a cart. Being a warm weather vegetable, they're going to be more susceptible to colder weather. They're not going to like cold weather. Whereas the cold weather stuff that is out on the cart now actually prefers the cooler temps to a degree. So anyway, I guess that's it for now. Hope everyone's doing well out there, and talk with y'all next time. In the meantime, happy gardening. Bye.